Good evening and welcome to Have I Got News for You. I'm Adrian Dunbar. In the news this week, after the BBC cancels all regular programmes on Friday, the head of scheduling opens his viewer feedback inbox. As one dog grooming salon reopens in Bicester, Alan Carr's pug arrives for a nail trim.
Okay.
And as gyms reopen across the country, a new public information film asks men to re-familiarise themselves with the equipment. On Paul's team tonight is a hugely successful political journalist. I'm not saying he's powerful and influential at Westminster, but he's just had a text from David Cameron. Please welcome Tim Shipman. And with Ian tonight is a comedian who presents the jewellery-making contest All That Glitters. As a reality TV show where contestants show off their rings, it's second only to Naked Attraction. Please welcome Katherine Ryan. So the first question of round one covers a momentous story that we simply can't avoid. As you all know, last Friday, the nation was united in sorrow following the sad announcement that the much-loved MasterChef final had been taken to the Incidentally, if you are offended by jokes about Prince Philip, that's fine. It's what he would have wanted.
I just want to say, Adrian, this is difficult for you because it is, a major, historical figure has died. But when Margaret Thatcher died, Brian Blessed hosted the show. And you can imagine that 2 minutes silence was very hard to endure.
The BBC coverage of the Prince Philip story has become the most complained about event in TV history. They had so many complaints, 110,000 of them, that they had to make a special form to accommodate them. Viewers switching on BBC 4 and settling back to watch Sounds of the 70s saw this announcement and assumed a nuclear war had started.
It is classic. I mean, in television, they're always like generals fighting the last war. This was about the Queen Mother, and the BBC got it in the neck then, because they didn't put on enough coverage of the Queen Mother. So they thought this time, we'll have nothing but coverage when this royal dies. So we had this just absolute tsunami of coverage, which was on literally all the time. And even if you were quite interested at the beginning, and I am quite interested, I sort of, let's go back and do the Second World War and naval battles, let's have it all. By the end of it, I'm going, stop! It's just, they had the same thing on every channel all the time. And I know you're going to say this is sour grapes because we were taken off, which it is.
You already touched on the massive row in 2002 after the Queen Mother died.
Yes.
When newsreader Peter Sissons was accused of having a too frivolous tie and a suit that wasn't dark enough. And it emerged that as he got ready to announce the Queen Mother's death, Peter Sissons was told to choose a burgundy tie, not a black one. And the news editor said to him, don't go overboard. She's a very old woman who had to ITV1 also pulled their schedule, though not ITV 2, 3 and 4 and all those other rubbish ones. Yeah? But couldn't really pull the kind of names the BBC had. Who did ITV have on?
Was it Alan Titchmarsh?
No.
Was that BBC?
Actually, it was Theresa May. And what was it about her, according to Philip Schofield, that made her an appropriate contributor?
Had she put her £1,000 leather trousers on again?
Let's have a look, shall we?
Someone who saw that close up was our former Prime Minister, Theresa May.
Well, she herself had a husband called Philip to turn to.
Yes, what a fabulous segue that was.
Yes.
Yeah. How did Radio 1 Dance Station adapt in preparation for the breaking news last Friday?
Did they play solemn house music?
They kind of did. Let's find out. Yeah.
He's looking good, though.
Why not as a remix?
Yeah,
I
very
have
good.
definitely heard worse mashups. I kind of enjoyed that little interlude.
The thing I liked about all this was that normally when someone dies, all the hideous stuff about them comes out of the woodwork. With Prince Philip, there have been so many terrible stories while he was alive that most of the coverage was about what a nice bloke he was. Apparently, when the Queen had her coronation and she walked into the back room afterwards, he said, "Where did you get that hat?" And I thought that was rather charming.
There was a very, very good story about him at school when they tried to set up a sort of Hitler Youth organisation, and he refused to join, and then whenever they did the salute, he would say, "I'd like to go to the toilet." Early Philip banter.
How did Prince Philip progress to the chapel at Windsor?
Land Rover.
Yes.
It's his own idea.
He designed it himself, hadn't he? I think it was an electric vehicle.
That's right. He travelled in a customised Land Rover, which he designed himself, to carry his own coffin. According to the Times, it used to cause Prince Philip wry amusement that many of those involved in the planning of his funeral died long before him.
I do enjoy that only 30 people can attend the funeral. And I like that lately only 30 people can attend your nuptials as well, or a christening. And I think we should carry that forward so that all your loved ones jostle for position throughout your lifetime.
So who wasn't there?
Well, that's quite a large number of people.
Yeah,
Well, at the funeral.
it is.
The world's population, less 30.
Yeah, that's right. But Meghan Markle wasn't there.
Oh, she wasn't there, wasn't she?
No.
No, she wasn't there, no.
She was advised not to travel by her doctor. I bet she breathed a sigh of relief. It's worth getting pregnant just to avoid that. Now, Prince Harry was there.
Yes.
Now, is he still a prince? Is he still HRH? Is he indeed H? I am right. Now, how did he describe his grandfather?
He called him the King of Banter.
That's
I know
right.
he did, yeah.
Yes, a master of the barbecue.
That's a lifetime of service for you.
And a legend of banter. And can anyone recall any of Prince Philip's legendary banter at this point?
There's an awful lot of it.
Yes.
Well, he did once say about his daughter, Princess Anne, if it doesn't fart or eat hay, she's not interested. So the Queen decreed that all the men had to wear suits. Whose plans did that thwart?
Well, that's dear old Prince Andrew, who was
Yeah.
desperate to dress as an admiral. I'm not sure that they were in civvies for this reason. I think they've just gone a bit to seed during lockdown, like a lot of us have, put on a bit of weight, and frankly, the only clothes that fit anymore will be their pyjamas.
You think they can turn up in pyjamas?
Well, that would have been a look, wouldn't it?
That'll be good for the royal commentators. And here he comes, wearing Marks and Spencer's. Paisley pattern there. Is it a Paisley pattern there? Looking resplendent.
Yes.
Pyjamas, of course, invented by Prince Philip,
And there's the royal hot water bottle.
otherwise known as Princess Michael of Kent.
Well, it was Prince Andrew who thought he should be made up to an admiral on his 60th birthday, and according to the Times, had already asked his tailors to start making the uniform. So many tributes to Prince Philip came from the members of the Parliament. What did the Lords do?
All I know is Parliament managed to sit for something like 7 hours where they could all say how marvellous Prince Philip was and how they'd nearly met him. And that's much more time than they gave to the EU bill.
Ian, it's very important that lots of MPs did the Duke of Edinburgh's awards scheme. They wanted to tell people about it. The same happened in Cabinet last week. Matt Hancock said he'd done his D of E, and Robert Jenrick piped up and said, well, I got the Gold Award and I was presented it by Prince Philip.
What was that for? Property development?
Boris Johnson said he thought it was typical that Hancock was such a school swot that he'd gone off and done the D of E. So if you're reading the runes, that probably means he's our next education secretary.
Yes, the House of Lords members were able to make online video tributes to Prince Philip and get 162 quid attendance fee for doing so. I mean, I wouldn't get out of bed for 162 quid, and a lot of them didn't have to. This, of course, is the death of the Duke of Edinburgh. His Royal Highness the Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, Earl of Merioneth, Baron Greenwich, Royal Knight of the Most Noble Order of the Garter, Extra Knight of the Most Ancient and Most Noble Order of the Thistle, Member of the Order of Merit, Knight Grand Cross of the Royal Victorian Order, Grand Master and First and Principal Knight Grand Cross of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire, Knight of the Order of Australia, additional member of the Order of New Zealand, extra companion to the Queen's Service Order, Royal Chief of the Order of Ologahoo, Extraordinary Companion of the Order of Canada, Extraordinary Commander of the Order of Military Merit, Lord of Her Majesty's Most Honourable Privy Council of the Queen's Privy Council for Canada, Personal Aide-de-Camp to Her Majesty, Lord High Admiral of the United Kingdom. Mother of God, how big is that headstone? Last week, there was an outcry when the BBC suspended most of its programming to make space for coverage of Philip's death. According to The Guardian, BBC 4 was taken off air, though we should point out there are no witnesses to corroborate. The Times showed how the hearse will make its way from Windsor Castle to St George's Chapel. Now listen, fellas. If there's one thing I've learned, it's never revealed the true route of a convoy. Paul and Tim, take a look at this.
Yes, oh, that's the moment, I suppose, when people...
Freedom!
There we are, gather outside. Live from Blackpool, it says there, so I've no reason to doubt it. That's not a good look if you're a hairdresser. Yeah, everything's opening up again, or a lot of things are. Things that you can do indoors, things you can't do outdoors.
Correct.
Correct, there we are.
This is the news that lockdown restrictions have been eased in some parts of the UK and that the national target to vaccinate the over 50s has been met.
Yeah, I know the over 45s can now get a jab, which is very exciting for me personally, but
Good.
even more exciting for all those middle-aged, middle-class people who are finally getting some drugs for the first time since Glastonbury 2019.
Why has our vaccination rollout been so successful?
Has it? No, I don't believe it's difficult when they say it's been a real success, because I feel like the government always says what we've done is a great success. And then they talk sense sometimes, but I feel like if wisdom started coming from the toilet, I would be suspicious, because I'd say, well, that sounds true, but it's coming from the toilet.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel anytime Matt Hancock speaks.
But there was a very, very good guide this week. The Prime Minister was asked why he thought our figures were going down so much, and he said the important thing to remember, it was not the vaccination, it was the lockdown. And I thought, great, it's the vaccination.
You know, we've now got our relationship with the EU on an even keel as well, haven't we? We're sending them the Kent variant, and they're sending us the vaccine. It's a pretty good deal, really.
You're way out of line, fella. Right. So what have you all done this week that wasn't legal last week? Yes, exactly. Pubs, shops, salons and staycations are back. Let's see two people delighted to be able to visit a restaurant in Cranley, Surrey. Yes, that looks fun, doesn't it?
I bet it was fun.
If you were having soup, it would take you about 4 years to finish it.
Lots of my friends saying, oh, let's go out and have a drink. And I think, no, I have done that in lockdown. That's the one thing I think I've probably got quite good at.
Have you been sitting on a park bench on your own here with a...
Swearing with a bottle of cider.
Yeah.
And a newspaper.
Yeah.
Bloody Cameron.
But it is difficult going back to actual measures when you're not free pouring them yourself in the lounge. That was an adjustment. We had a pub lunch outside, and I just thought, something's wrong with this fridge. I didn't make it.
And what did the staff at Magnolia Barbering in Chesterfield have to do?
Did they have to employ a hairdresser for every single hair that was being cut?
No, they had to put up nightclub-style barriers outside to control the crowds of men desperate for a haircut. Boris Johnson apparently was amongst those saying he needed his haircut badly. And this week, someone made his wish come true. So how were visitors to Alton Towers theme park greeted when it reopened?
With heavy sarcasm. Hit in the face with wet fish.
They get free ride.
According to the Daily Telegraph, a welcome party included Eric the Yeti and Darwin the Dodo, which came as a disappointment to Eric and Darwin, who didn't know their colleagues had given them those nicknames. Now, shall we have a look at how one reporter covered the reopening of Blackpool Pleasure Beach?
Yes.
Well, there's a lot of work to do here at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, getting ready for the crowds to come back on Monday. Here's a bit of the work that they've got to do.
That man there, does he always shout like that, but he thought to try and cover it, they put him on a roller coaster?
Yeah, he probably always does. Over at IKEA in Bristol, according to The Times, the store had a relaxed air with customers limited to 1,000 at a time. While Rachel Kipling drove to John Lewis just to breathe it in. So what have the Welsh opened for the first time since last year, but the Scots haven't?
The possibility of a united kingdom.
Jim?
The Welsh border has reopened to visitors from the rest of the UK. I mean, and it says here, did anyone notice it was closed? Well, obviously not. And Scotland may reopen its border in mid-May. And what did the chairman of NERVTAG, N-E-R-V-T-A-G, have to say about all this?
Oh, is it one of the subcommittees?
Yes,
Yeah.
this is the new and emerging Respiratory Virus Threats Advisory Group. Chairman Professor Peter Horby was asked about the easing of lockdown restrictions, and he told Times Radio, hopefully it won't translate too much into hospitalisations and deaths. Well, that's the spirit. Finally, we mentioned Nigel Farage's venture into personal video messaging last week.
Yes.
Let's take a look at how that's going.
Right, yeah, lovely.
Happy birthday, huge anus.
Was that him looking into a mirror?
So this is the joyous lifting of lockdown, or if you're watching the repeat, the reckless harbinger of the third wave. One vaccine development this week is that AZ has been backed by the MHRA and EMA using data from the ONS and the PHE to support the JCV. I mean, hang on. I only said yes to this show to get away from bloody academia. Dangerous clots are also in the news due to Johnson & Johnson. Well, Stanley and his missus certainly produced one. According to the Mirror, on Monday, 4 million pints of beer were sold in the UK, the equivalent of 92 pints a second, which proves if there's one thing we can roll out faster than the vaccine, it's the barrel. How I missed those spur-of-the-moment, impromptu, quick drinks with mates, where you just go online to the local pub's website, access the booking form, find an hour-and-a-half window on April the 23rd between 5:45 and 7:15 in the garden, use a credit card to pay a deposit to secure the booking, and enter the names, emails and mobile phone numbers of each of the people who will be attending, and chill. According to The Sun, on a cold Monday night, people kept warm as they drank outdoors thanks to blankets and hot water bottles. And in Northern Ireland, blazing police cars. So, at the end of that round, it's 2 points each. Now, thank you. On to round two. The Investigation Board of News. Fingers on buzzers, teams. What do you think, Tim?
Well, it's David Cameron.
That's right.
This is the part of the show where we talk about nicking bent lobbyists, allegedly. He got involved with this financier chap called Lex Greensill, Lex Luthor not being available that week. And he got him to come and work for him. And then when he stopped being Prime Minister, he started doing some work for Mr Greensill in return, phoning up all his old mates and asking for lots of money. Unfortunately, most of his old mates told him to get stuffed. Boris Johnson has been shocked to discover that all this has been going on, so he's ordered an independent inquiry.
And it's very urgent. It only took 11 years to be investigated.
But Dave is going to turn up. He's going to answer all the questions, though I think you'll find, Adrian, that he does want to be quizzed by someone one rank senior to himself. But, you know, Dave is very, very sorry. He's very, very sorry he got caught.
Boris basically said he was going to set up an inquiry into Cameron because he doesn't like him anyway, so that's great. And he thought, I'll throw him under the bus and that'll do. And then the inquiry has generated a whole lot of stuff about Boris, too.
Really?
Yes, and about his involvement and him being lobbied by the Saudi Arabian Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who apparently is able to ring up our Prime Minister and say, I don't like what's happening with the Premier League, sort it out. The Prince then rang Boris and said, would you correct the decision they've made? It's fairly straightforward. I think they've got the idea that British Prime Ministers are there just to do whatever they say. I mean, Cameron, this is a year after the Khashoggi affair, is in a tent going camping in Saudi Arabia with the Prince. You know, there's a crackling fire. Chuck another journalist on it.
It's reminiscent of Glastonbury after it went posh. Everything went wrong.
You seem to be obsessed with Glastonbury. Were you turned down from headlining at the Pyramid stage at some point in your life?
Yeah, my puppetry of the penis has never yet been accepted as a major act. So.
But, I mean, when I look at Cameron, I just want to question, I want to say, what has happened to us? When did we stop caring about honesty and integrity? It's not a rhetorical question.
You know, and a barefaced liar promoted to our highest office. Don't forget that, Ian.
David Cameron did say he learned one lesson. He said that when he was exerting influence within government on behalf of private financial service companies, that he should do that meddling through the official channels and not via texting.
Right,
So
in
it's
a letter.
not sorry, but it's sort of a lesson learned.
This isn't a grey area. These people who procure this then go and work for them. And now we find out that a civil servant, while he's a civil servant, oh, did I not mention I've got another job?
The head of procurement.
I know exactly how you guys feel because this relentless dishonesty is frustrating, and I experience it whenever people talk about, do the Kardashians edit their photos on Instagram?
But there is some good news in all of this. The return of Lord Eric Pickles. Hurrah! Yes, absolutely. Lord Pickles is head of
ACOBA.
ACOBA, he is, bloody acronyms. That's the Advisory Committee on Business Appointments. Now, what is Lord Pickles looking into?
He's looking into all this misdoing, including, presumably, by members of his own board, who themselves are lobbyists, at the same time as serving on the watchdog that's supposed to clean all this up.
So he's going to sort it out for us.
He is. He's investigating why one of Cameron's top officials, when in government, Bill Crothers, was also working for Greensill Capital, a dual role which Crothers himself described as not uncommon. According to the Daily Mail, he later received shares that could have been worth more than £5 million. So, what is Keir Starmer suggesting should happen?
He wants another inquiry, this time run by MPs.
Yes.
Hurrah!
He's also saying this. Let's have a look.
We don't need another Conservative Party appointee marking their own homework. Actually, Mr. Speaker, the more I listen to the Prime Minister, the more I think that Ted Hastings and AC12 are needed to get to the bottom of this one.
That's why we have tougher laws on lobbying. A great shame that Labour opposed them. Mr. Speaker, yes, we are getting on with rooting out bent coppers, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, very good, Boris. Yes, well done for picking up the torch there, yes. And finally, let's have a quick look at how Alex Salmond's Alba Party are doing in their efforts to promote themselves in Scotland. Oh, mother of God. Right, this is the news that David Cameron will face an investigation over his role with finance firm Greensill Capital. Despite dragging Mohammed bin Salman into the Greensill scandal, Cameron remains on good terms with the Saudi prince. In fact, he's just been invited to a free stay at the Istanbul embassy. Right, fingers on buzzers, teams.
This must be a story, judging by a picture, that a marrow has managed to grow the baldest man in Shropshire.
Yes, that's right.
It's right.
No, it's not right.
Oh, you said it was right.
No, it's not right. No.
Well, no, it's not right. It was right. I can confuse a stupid person.
I love this man. His name is Gerald, and he's a septuagenarian who's gone viral, which is the last thing a man in his 70s wants to hear during a pandemic. But he is a 70-something-year-old influencer, huge following, and he grows big veg.
Yep, that's him. This is the news that 72-year-old retired barge controller turned gardener Gerald Stratford is Gucci's latest supermodel, right? Shall we take a look at Gerald in Gucci ads, right?
Yes.
Here's the rather dashing Gerald showing some models a feast of salad.
It's really good to show thin city dwellers what food is.
Yes, that's right. And here he is watching on as one of the models vandalizes his cabbage patch. Actually, I assumed he was holding a cabbage, but it might just be the sleeve of that Gucci jacket. Gerald became a Twitter superstar after a picture of his King Edwards went viral.
I'm sorry, how does a picture like that go viral? A man holding a dish full of potatoes. What's gone wrong with the world when that goes viral?
So when did we stop caring about... No, that's...
I mean, Loch Ness Monster, views of the Earth from outer space, a man holding a load of potatoes. Click, click, click. I don't get it.
Well, they turned off Gardner's Question Time last Friday, and people needed an outlet. And he's very charismatic. He always says good morning in his videos.
Yeah.
He's a real lovable chap.
Well, look, if he'd got a bigger bowl, he wouldn't have to hold 3 potatoes in his hand. That's where he's gone wrong. Maybe that's why people went viral.
Yeah, a big bowl and a small measure of potatoes.
Yeah, exactly.
That means. Right. Does anyone know what Gerald's speciality veg is?
Carrots.
Here are his carrots.
Is he just this bloke's a little bloke?
Yeah,
He's only like about 3'6" or something, and he's got normal-sized carrots. And everybody's going viral for no reason at all.
Here are his enormous onions.
This is looking more and more like a kink all the time.
Yes. Would anyone like to see a gardener who's had slightly less good fortune than Gerald?
Yes, we'd love to.
There he is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why are gardeners in Switzerland burying their underwear? That's a tricky one, but it's all over the news, guys. You really
Is it?
should.
Is it
All over the British news. We've only had one story.
That's right, yeah, that's right. No, it's very big in some of the cantons.
Oh, is it sort of like that astronaut movie where waste was used to grow fresh veg? Maybe they have really, like, foul knickers and they're using it as a
That is really good, Katherine. That's really good. It's not quite right, but it's really good. To help scientists test soil quality, the idea is that they all bury the same pair of fresh white underpants and dig up the soiled pants a few months later, where they will be analysed to see what microbes are eating away at the underwear. Where do they get this stuff from? And from the vegetable king to a beauty queen, what dramatic turn did the Mrs. Sri Lanka contest take last week?
Mrs. Sri Lanka. It was a man in drag.
Well, I think a woman was jealous that her friend was divorced and she was still married. And she says, you cannot have the crown because you are divorced.
Ah.
Katherine, that's very good for you. So, because immediately after the current holder of the title...
I know about 2 things, Kardashians and international beauty pageants.
Yes, well, that's interesting, isn't it? You know, because immediately after the current holder of the title, Caroline Jury, announced her successor, she then said that, in fact, Pushpika de Silva couldn't have the title because she was a divorcee and that the runner-up should have the crown instead. Let's have a look at the decrowning. Desperate, isn't it? The crown was eventually returned to Pushpika after judge confirmed she was not a divorcee, just separated from her husband. This is the news that giant vegetable grower Gerald Stratford has been signed up to be the face of Gucci's new collection. Gerald has grown carrots and parsnips that are 3 feet long, any one of which could feed all the other Gucci models for a year. Right, fingers on buzzers, everybody. Right, now to serious matters.
Is this the cricket where we've got this new series called The 100?
Yeah.
Where they've gone off and focus grouped it. We now have, instead of wickets, we have outs, and we're having batters instead of batsmen, and traditional Britain is up in arms about the whole thing.
Is it 100 overs?
It's 100 balls.
That is quick. Why not just have 1 ball?
Yeah.
And then tea?
Yeah, 1 ball and tea.
I mean, I know that a lot of language is evolving, but cricket to me does not seem like the ideal environment for change. You know, a lot of these fans have had to make so many adjustments already. Their grandchildren are changing their pronouns. They've got to sit down and watch Drag Race UK with the family. They hardly grope women at all. Let them have cricket.
Yes, this is the launch of the new cricket competition, The 100, aimed at modernising the game and dragging it into the 19th century. Which means at the end of this round, it's Ian and Katherine with 3 points and Paul and Tim with 4. And so time now for the odd one out round.
Yes.
Yes.
Ian and Katherine, here are yours. Leonardo da Vinci, 2 visitors at an art gallery, Sir Anthony Hopkins and Picasso.
Well, it's all going to be art-related, obviously. Sir Anthony Hopkins played Leonardo da Vinci, didn't he?
I think he played Picasso, didn't he?
Picasso. And this pig is called Pigcasso.
Yeah.
Because he paints with his snout, allegedly, or, that looks like an accident to me, but apparently he's a genius.
Sir Anthony paints.
He does. Now you've got it.
Yeah, right. So they all paint. The pig paints, Sir Anthony paints. That couple, he can't be this easy. They're the only people who don't paint.
Ian, bang on again. They're all artists apart from the two visitors to a South Korean art gallery who painted on an artwork. So what made a young couple in Seoul think they could start painting on an artwork?
They walked across an installation not knowing it was an installation.
Yes, the untitled piece by American graffiti artist Joe One, worth over $300,000, was displayed, unframed, in a shopping mall with paint cans and brushes scattered around it. So they presumed it was a piece of participatory art. Let's have a look at the painting. I don't think you need me to point out where they daubed the paint on it, thus ruining it completely. Yes, there you are, you see. Hang on. I think I've met D.I. Kate Fleming in that underpass. Yes, so Leonardo da Vinci is, of course, an artist. But what has been revealed...
It's tough, this quiz, isn't it?
He's giving you the answers here.
What has been revealed about him in a new documentary?
Doesn't the aforementioned Prince of Saudi have his most expensive work on a yacht and refuses to let it be displayed in a museum?
Oh, this is Salvator Mundi.
Correct.
Ah. And people aren't entirely sure whether this is a Da Vinci or not.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a suggestion that the Saudi prince may have paid a phenomenal amount of money for something that is fake.
Yes.
Like David Cameron, possibly.
Experts at the Louvre conducted X-ray analysis on Salvator Mundi painting previously thought to be by Da Vinci and concluded that he only contributed a few brushstrokes, the lazy fecker.
I didn't know that Jesus was a fan of indoor bowling.
So, meanwhile, what has the talented artist and Pigcasso been painting recently? I'll give you a clue. Here is the finished piece.
That does look like Boris Johnson to me, I'll be honest.
Well, actually, that's Prince Harry, apparently. And
How do we know?
the pig said. Who is this beguiling creature? Yes, it's Dolly Parton.
Ooh.
And, yes.
That's it?
Yeah, apparently.
She's not aged well, is she?
And who's this?
That's Donald Trump.
Correct.
Wow!
I've got into the pigs
How do you
genre
do that?
now.
How did
You've got
you
into
do
the
that?
pig genre.
Yeah.
Have you?
Yeah. And finally, who's this fetching portrait of?
Is this the Bolton Wanderers reserve team?
No, this is actually a nude donkey.
A nude donkey as opposed to one wearing a suit?
Yeah,
Can't believe how this show has deteriorated over the years.
Yeah.
I mean, what has happened to us? I mean,
Yeah.
We are what, yeah, exactly. What,
when did we stop caring?
In our universal grief, we're naming celebrities painted by a pig.
The porcine artist is called Pigcasso. It's a good name, but I'd have gone with Francis Bacon myself, who also used to get slaughtered after a day's painting. And lastly, Sir Anthony Hopkins was meant to be attending the BAFTA Film Awards ceremony virtually on Sunday, but missed it because he was working on a painting in a hotel room. Yes, I've always wondered who did those paintings. Paul and Tim, your four are Brian Robson, Wally, Olmo Garcia, and the Abominable Snowman.
Where's Wally? You usually have to try and find him in a picture, so that's the main characteristic of Wally. The Abominable Snowman is someone that's not easy to find or to confirm that he exists. So it's something about searching for people. I mean, the bloke that's streaking, he's probably quite easy to find when he goes shopping.
I think the streaker is from the Man U game the other day. He's like Spain's version of Swampy. He's a nudist eco-warrior. But I think in order to do his streaking, he had to hide under a tarpaulin for several hours. So I think there's a sort of hiding...
Ah, right, OK. So, like, Wally is hiding as well?
Yes, they're all good at hiding, apart from the Abominable Snowman, who is such a draw for tourists that Siberian officials staged lots of sightings. Here are the perpetrators as pictured in the Daily Mirror, Siberian Governor and Yeti Man. Mirror helpfully clarifying which is And so how else did Governor Aman Tulayev hoodwink people into thinking they'd seen a Yeti?
Did they leave big footprints?
Well, he dressed up in a Yeti costume and ran around up in the mountains and gave the traditional Yeti mating call. West Bromwich Albion. That's why there aren't many of them left.
I think you should go and have a chat with this guy, because that's exactly what he did. 1997 to 2018, Tulayev gave instructions to his staff such as find someone tall, turn a fur coat inside out and run around shouting so that tourists notice, but they must not catch him.
No.
No. A local Siberian artist claimed that a Yeti actually posed for him. The main thing was his eyes. They were just like Olmo Garcia was seen streaking at the football match between Manchester United and Granada last week. Here he is being led away by police. If you want to see the tackle, then I'm sure it's somewhere on the internet. According to police, Olmo entered the stadium at 7 a.m. before spending 14 hours hidden under a large canvas, making his move 10 minutes into the match.
Must have been quite cold under there, I imagine, as well.
Yeah, he's got a great body, but huge nips. You're right about the temperature.
Yeah,
Look at them.
that's right, yeah. So in 1964, a homesick Brian Robson once airmailed himself home from Australia to London in a crate as he couldn't afford the airfare. Yes, Brian is now hoping to find the men who helped him make the journey. Here's the box they helped him get in. So, how did Brian rate his trip?
Bit cratey.
Yeah.
Well, this was pre-Amazon.
Yes, that's right.
He'd have turned up in a cardboard box this time.
I don't think they respected the "this way up" signs.
That's right.
And they did jostle him and hurt him quite a lot.
Yes, that's right. He described it as quite a horrific experience and that he had repeatedly been stored upside down. So did Brian make it back to London, is the question?
No.
Yes. Eventually,
Well,
Brian
this
ended up...
interrogation's tough, isn't it?
That's right, yes. You just keep yourself together, fella. Brian ended up in LA after the flight he was supposed to be put on was full and spent 5 days in the crate instead of the 36 hours he'd been expecting. He was then discovered by a US cargo handler and sent home to London. The answer is they're all good at hiding, apart from the abominable snowman who was desperate to be seen in Russia. Where's Wally is a book series in which children have to find Wally in a crowd. I should probably explain to our younger viewers that a crowd is a gathering of lots of people. Brian Robson is now looking for the two Irishmen who helped him into the crate for the flight, where he says he couldn't stretch his legs and he couldn't turn round. Hold on. I think one of them might be that guy who owns Ryanair. Right. So, time now for the Missing Words round, which this week features as its guest publication the newsletter of the MYA, Model Yacht Association. I'm guessing sales are done. And we start with what set-to-be item most often stolen this year?
Liberty.
Hadron Collider. ID cards.
Cabinet Office Pass.
Memories.
Is it vaccine passports by Brexiteers if they're blue ones?
Yes. Well, the answer is, of course, hot tubs. Or as Professor Chris Whitty calls it, the Petri dish of new variant infection. Next, mystery tree beast turns out to be...
That's Nigel Farage. Ah, yes, I know this one. It's like a bin bag full of chickpeas.
Actually, the answer is a croissant. Animal welfare officers in Poland were alerted to a mysterious beast in a tree which turned out to be a croissant. Here is the offending pastry. Next, chef criticised for putting what in her salad?
Dermot O'Leary.
Oh, don't be ridiculous.
Oh, sorry, is that ridiculous? Walnuts.
Raymond Holmes.
Uruguay. I'm going through the alphabet.
Yeah, Uruguay's good.
Yeah.
Right.
I'd like that.
Vodka, maybe. A little vodka vinaigrette. I've tried it. Not terrible.
No, it's popcorn. The chef's popcorn salad recipe includes popcorn, mayonnaise, sour cream, sugar, and cheese powder. And if we're pushing the limits of the word salad to this extent, I know a lovely grape salad you can drink from a wine glass. Next. What started life in the McDonald's at the junction of the A1 and the A14?
Vegetarianism.
Coronavirus.
Michael Gove.
Prince Harry.
A baby. Was a real baby born there?
No.
Oh.
Is it a yacht?
Oh, the Model Yacht Club.
Model Yacht Club.
Yay! That's brilliant. Absolutely. Huntington Radio Yacht Club. Yes. In the spring of 2012, a small group met up in a McDonald's for a chat about starting a new club. But the dogging didn't take off, so they turned to model yachts. Next, pensioner uses lockdown to clean their what?
Filthy language.
Browsing history.
Well, the answer is collection of 23,000 milk bottles.
Oh,
Yes, Steve has spent lockdown cleaning his collection at an average of 657 bottles per day at a rate of 82 an hour in 8-hour shifts. In fact, he's worked so long for so little money that Amazon have offered him a job in their warehouse. Next, mystery has hundreds of sheep. What?
Are single.
Become lunch.
Answer is stand in circle in field.
Oh.
Right. Yes, this is... Shall we have a look? Yeah, there they are. If you want to know what's happening, really happening, the sheep taking the mickey out of the pigs in the next door field by doing an impression of a Cumberland sausage. If you have a big nose, stand by. You can...
host, have I got news for you?
Yes, exactly. You can live on less water.
You can live on less water.
Really?
Big noses have helped humans adapt to dry landscapes, apparently. Our nasal passages help conserve water by cooling and condensing the water vapour from exhaled air and turning it back into liquid. That's according to Professor Conkface at Big Nose University. And finally, if you ask most people, what does the Model Yacht Association provide for its members, the first item usually mentioned is what?
Friendship, fellowship, technical solutions.
Is it a yacht?
Scurvy.
Sailor uniforms.
Insurance.
Insurance? I remember reading a story about 30 years ago about a man who built a scaled-down model of the Titanic.
Yeah.
He launched it and it sank.
Well, as they say in Belfast, she was all right when she left here. The article goes on to reveal that the maximum limit for each claim is 5 million. Model yachts sound a bit sad, but they're currently the only way you can get sausages from Northern Ireland to Britain. And so the final scores are Ian and Katherine have 6 points, and Paul and Tim have 6 points. And I leave you with the news that evidence comes to light that Robert Jenrick and Dominic Raab are members of a secret fight club in the basement of number 10. Scientists announced that they have successfully created an artificial intelligence cyborg fusing Elton John and Jurgen Klopp. In Whitehall, there's a measured response to Boris Johnson's order for any civil servants with second jobs to declare at once. And at a stag party in Berkshire, one frustrated partygoer realises that there must have been a typo in his online request for 2 strippers. Thank you and good night.